Did you just talk about shoes?
Yeah, I actually got a new pair earlier this week, getting ready for the next winter. So that was a good topic to bring up.
Psychic, dude. That's my mutant power. I
Yeah.
know when people have bought shoes. Doesn't come in handy very often. I'd make a crap X-Man. Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Collector's Item Special, part of the Omniverse Comics Guide podcast. This week's special guest, we're going to get straight into it, is Mike from the Hardcover comic. As you can see, it says under his under his picture there, Hardcover Mike.
Happy to be here.
Thank you. Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. Mike's, as I say, one half of the Hardcover comic. You've been on YouTube for 10 years now?
Something like
10
that,
years
yeah.
now? That's crazy. And you've got 16,000 subscribers, I think, and over 2 million views, which is nuts, right? Do you not think about the numbers?
No, I mean, for Matt and I know for me personally, it was always just fun. Like he's 10 years now. I was 19 at the time when I started the channel. It's been a third of my life, I guess. I've been doing this YouTube thing. Damn, only had 16,000. What a rough. How rough is that?
Just not trying.
I'm gonna get there eventually. There's always that one, waiting for that one viral video. I gotta say something wrong.
What's the good number? What's the sweet spot then?
I don't know. 16K doesn't even make sense to me. Matt and I sometimes will talk to each other and we're literally getting books, excited about them, talking about them, putting a video out online. I started by watching those videos, especially Riley, Omar. Riley, I forget what his account's name was. I think just Omnibus Collector at the time. But they'd put out videos, kind of the same deal, just talking about an omnibus, right? And, for me at the time at 19, spending $70 on a book was kind of crazy. On a comic book was kind of crazy. I was in university studying student debt, and I was going to go and spend $80 on Animal Man by Grant Morrison. But you watch that video and you feel that passion, you feel that excitement for the stories. Someone put themselves out there on YouTube to talk about this story and how much they love it.
Yeah. And
I fell in love with it that way. And hopefully, that was the intent with videos is, hey, I'm being crazy and spending more money than I should as a student. Hopefully these videos at least inform someone that I can skip this omnibus because it doesn't look like it's worth my money.
Yeah. Or vice versa, of course, I guess, if you're not sure. Because that's the thing. One of the things I really like about the hardcover comic is it's like you say, it's the honesty of it. It's really chilled out. It feels like a really chilled out watch. So when you're talking about the stuff, it feels honest because you're literally going, this is great. I love to put the art. It's beautiful. Right. It's like it really sets out what to expect. It doesn't feel like someone's going, can you sell our book? Because it just feels genuine.
Yeah, I appreciate that a lot. Yeah,
it's cool.
That's the hope. That's the hope when I know both Matt and I, when we try to make a video, that's the intent we do it with. And I think we're both kind of honest about what we dislike. I mean, Marvel's probably taken more shots from us than they should. But I mean, if we're not enjoying it and we don't get it, there was a craze for Venom and Carnage when Donny Cates was writing it. We just didn't like it, and we didn't say that. We would tell people we just don't enjoy it. Not for us. If you enjoy it, that's great.
Yeah.
Just not for us. This isn't the channel to come to if you want to hear people talking about how awesome it is.
To be fair, there's probably enough other channels that do that anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
so
I mean,
that's why I don't go to them and I come to yours.
I do wonder what would happen if Marvel or DC came up to us and said, "Here's some free." I always wonder about that corruption, right? Because it happens in so many different avenues of life, where so many different careers and different marketplaces. So I kind of wonder if that would take over for me as well.
Nah, I can't see it, man.
Yeah,
I like to think not. And it's interesting. But do you find then, in terms of what you're picking up, before we get into some of your favorite pieces in your collection, which is what we're going to talk about today, have you found that you've generally moved away from the big two in the last couple of years and gravitate, because it seems to be that way in the videos. There's more of a focus on, like you did the Europe comics one the other day, which I'm just looking at it going, I know none of this, and now you're going to cost me a fortune. So thanks. But yeah, it does seem to have potentially changed. Like your focus seems to have changed a little.
Big time. Yeah. And it's nothing against Marvel or DC. They're large corporations that have to make profits. People have jobs. They need to feed their I totally understand what they're doing over there. There's a lot of legacy behind it. 70, 80 years, some of these characters, right? And I still love those characters. I love Superman. I love Batman. If there's a good story that comes out for that character, I'm there. I'm all for it. But it's tougher and tougher to make those stories, in my opinion, because there have been so many.
Yeah.
And for me personally, when I go to find a story now, I'm looking for a perspective. For me, stories are about learning more about how humans think. You know, a writer is writing based on their perspective, what they've learned in life, who they've interacted with in life, and their life may be entirely different from mine, and I may learn some things from that individual through their story. And so that's usually what I'm looking for, and that's why something like European comics, you read them and you're like, yeah, these are very different. They have a different storytelling. They have a different message they're trying to tell. Usually they have a more honest and brutal way of telling you that message. They're usually very graphic, and they're usually very honest with how human beings can be in dark situations. So things like that, that's what gets me now. It's really getting a connection from a story, because I love an epic story like Dark Knight's Metal, but getting sort of seeing the characters interact with one another and sort of grappling with the concept yourself of these, everyone strives to be a type of person, and that sort of mirror negative universe version of yourself fighting back with you all the time. So you can draw parallels that way, but a lot of big two events are just grand and epic in scope just for the sake of cool art.
Yeah.
Some character will get a new power or change outfits or genders or whatever it may be. It doesn't matter. Something huge is going to change, and that's fine too. Just not what I'm looking for right now.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think ultimately when it comes down to it, there's a lot out there to choose from. And I mean, I love dipping into probably more the old school Marvel and DC at this point. But I mean, still, there's some stuff that comes up and I think like, oh, go on then, I'll give you a shot. But there's so much. And I think like I've heard people talk about comics, that don't necessarily know huge amounts about it. And they've gone, so all these films you see, they're all based on Marvel comics. So Constantine is a Marvel comic, and I'm like, it's not. And people don't know there's other stuff. So someone told me, we were talking about Sweet Tooth. I was talking to someone at work about Sweet Tooth, and I said, it's based on a comic, and they went, no, it isn't. No, it is. Like, no, it's not a superhero. Like, oh, geez.
Right. Yeah,
that's the battle.
Yeah. It's always superheroes, and it's the unfortunate stigma of it has drawings and artwork in it, so it's clearly not for adults, even though there are incredibly talented adults who have spent their entire lives working on their craft, creating these stories. It's meant for kids. If that's
completely only
that's it
solely. You've read Preacher, right?
Preacher, and then like, well, how about The Walking Dead, or have you ever seen the movie Red? That's based off of a mini series as well. I mean, there's so many examples to draw from.
There are.
Sin City, even. I mean, just tons and tons. It's great.
It is great. It's a massive pool that people can draw from. So because you've got an impressive collection, and like I'm looking at that collection, but it's okay. Look at it, because is that everything? That's not everything there either, is it?
No. It kind of keeps going this way,
dude.
We can do that. That might be okay.
I still want to get you in, preferably.
Yeah. It's a bit chaotic, the collection. It shifts and morphs and evolves all the time.
That's where it should be.
That
means you've got a good flow coming through. So what's speaking of new stuff coming through, what's a current read for you that you're really liking?
So a current read, I've recently got in a batch of custom binds for, I guess, anyone who's unfamiliar with our channel that may be watching. Both Matt and myself are really into custom binding comics. So I recently got a huge batch in, and I've been diving into those because, I mean, I get so excited when custom binds come in. So I'm holding up now. It's Justice League Dark. Speaking of big two, I do still read some of it. Justice League Dark by James Tynion the Fourth. So this was the recent run.
Yeah,
it was a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago.
I guess so. With Wonder Woman as the.
That's right. Yeah. So I got that entire run up until it was like last year that Ram V was still writing Justice League Dark 5-page stories in the backups of Justice League by Bendis. So they eventually collected that into trades as well. So I've got it all bound. I love the supernatural side of DC. I mean, Constantine, Swamp Thing, Demon Etrigan, Zatanna, Wonder Woman. It's awesome. I mean, there's nothing I could want more than that. Fighting for the magic in the universe. It's crazy.
How does it compare to the previous series, the New 52 era series?
So far, it's the scale of it is far larger. Wonder Woman's involved, of course, and they've added a twist to her origin story with a bit more magic added to it. I won't spoil more than that.
Okay.
But there's a whole crossover arc called The Witching Hour, which is sort of focused on her. Really great stuff. Really, really amazing stuff. Fernando Blanco, I think, is the artist. I can't remember all these names. I'll make a video on it eventually and give everyone the credit they're due, but it's spectacular. Really, really good stuff. And then I've been reading Attack on Titan as well because I saw, yeah, I got those. They have these colossal editions that were extremely oversized and just huge books. And I've been getting more into manga recently, so I'm just holding it up now for anyone listening.
Wow, that's a chunker.
Yeah, so there's 6 of these, and I need to get the 7th one bound. That'll be the full series. But it's great stuff. It's a really dark story. And I don't know if have you read much manga?
I've only not a huge amount. I've only dipped into like Gantz and The Girl from the Other Side and one or two others a little, but that's it. Okay, Gantz is that's an intense one to get into. Yeah. And it's not one to read on a train, it turns out, when someone sits over your shoulder.
Oh, no way.
Oh god, no, I'm not like that.
yeah, it's not like that. Someone's gonna get their head shot off soon. Don't worry, it's not all like
That's probably the least freaky thing that happens when
Yeah, I remember my grandma walking in one day and my friends and I were watching the anime. It was weird to explain. Really good stuff though. And Attack on Titan isn't as intense, but definitely mature, definitely very well thought out, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
That's the source material as well, isn't it? The manga.
Right. Yep.
Right. Yep. So I've never read it, but if it's worth giving it a shot, then
I'd say check it out. A lot of these publishers, it's Kodansha that publishes Attack on Titan. They'll usually do a free volume online, so you can read the first volume for free, and that's 200 pages. So
that's cool.
It's really good. They work. It's in learning about manga in general and how hard they work. They release chapters for the most part. They release chapters weekly. A chapter is 18 to 20 pages,
really?
Black and white.
Jeez.
Yeah. Some take some will take up to a month, but relative to Western comic schedules, they're grinding all day, every day.
Yeah.
To get these stories out. It's really impressive.
So don't a lot of them appear in like magazine format publications?
That's right.
Right.
That's right, yeah. And then eventually after I think 7 or 8 chapters they get a volume. It's kind of like a trade paperback.
Right. Yeah. Oh, cool. That's the thing. It's like manga it's intriguing. There's so much stuff again, there's all the stuff that people have heard of, and there's plenty of stuff that people haven't.
Yeah.
But it's knowing where to start, I think, to a point.
Yeah.
It's funny as well because you get all these people that have that whole debate of like American comics versus manga and how easy, because like American comics, what's the order? And you go like, if you read an Image book, it's just volume 1 to
right. Yeah, exactly.
It's only the big 2 that kind of go, let's just make this a crossover. Have you got issue 8 of this other series yet?
Yep.
But yeah, that option is there for both, for more independent and for manga. So there is that similarity.
Yep.
But I don't know if some people are put off by the black and white aspect.
I think a lot are, and I know, for myself and people that I know, you're reading in a reverse order, right? You're going right to left, both in terms of how you flow on the page and the way you read the page, turn the pages.
Yeah.
So it takes some getting used to, but I've really enjoyed it. Again, it's such a different perspective. Just because their culture is so different, they have different, similar values at the same time, but the way they approach them is different. There's a different level of reverence for elders, for example. I mean, in the West, elders are, they're literally put into homes together when there's a pandemic that's murdering them by the second, and they're told to stay in there. And that, I mean, it's just a different approach to it. So you'll even see minor details like that. And maybe I'm just crazy for even looking for these details. Sometimes I wish I could just enjoy the story, and just be like, this is such a great fun ride. But here I am, I don't know. I didn't pull anything out of that story. It's cool that this character beat this enemy, but I don't know.
But that's the depth of it, though. That's the thing that I think that people overlook a lot of the time, is they think things are just people punching each other, and there are some books that are people punching each other, which is just lovely. You know, we look at Hellboy and you go it's largely him punching things, but oh my god, what a beautiful book it is.
Right, and it's told so poetically too. He's doing it so poetically. You've got the lovely little shots of statues nearby and all the little details that Mignola especially adds in when he's doing Hellboy. Yeah, it's there is a lot of variety, and it is tough to start. I know a lot of people ask. We've done some videos where it's 5 sci-fi or fantasy kind of books if people are into that, but the fun of it too is to just jump in and, hey, why is his cape purple? Let's figure out, when did that start? Why did it start? You can kind of get into a rabbit hole. People love doing that. Maybe there would be less conspiracy theorists out there if people went down the rabbit hole of a DC or Marvel character.
Maybe.
You got 80 years to explore.
Less tinfoil hats, probably, as well.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, don't worry about the balloons. Don't worry about the balloons, guys.
Actually, that's the thing. What I was going to ask you as well, because you love those custom binds. I can't remember if I've seen any of yours with a custom cover.
Oh yeah, I do have some of those. I don't have any with covers that I've designed. I do have some with covers that other people have designed. Let me grab one real quick.
Sorry, I'll let you grab one.
So here's a Justice League Dark one. Now this was made by someone, I forget. I think what was his name? Ben or something on Facebook. And this was essentially what we did. I love the spine a lot.
That is nice.
It's really awesome.
Yeah.
This was the second or third one we made, so a lot of the dimensions are off. You'll see the flap bleeds in a bit into the front page, into the front, things like that. So that's why I'm not being too gentle with it. I also just printed it at I don't know if the name Staples means anything for you, being in the...
Yes, it does, yeah.
Yeah, so just printed it at Staples, on a poster board. It's not high quality or anything.
Right.
But it got me into making them. It really got me into making dust jackets. And I've designed a whole bunch for myself.
Have you?
I should print one day.
Yeah, do it. It'd be good just to see. Because it's some of this... When you look on Instagram, there are some people on there, and I'm going do you know what? Damn it, I might replace my Green Lantern dust covers because it's just the fist on all three.
Right.
Could do something nice with that. And there's this one guy that has, and it's all the different colored lanterns all lined up.
I forget what is Saeed, I think is his name, on one of the Facebook groups. Just makes, I think it's Saeed and I don't know. I forget the name, but there's someone who just makes incredible dust jackets. And I remember there was one for Green Lantern. Each one had a different. It had Hal Jordan. One had Kyle Rayner. One had someone else. Yeah. It's great. It's great that there's a community for it out there. It's great that people are customizing. I mean, I've seen people take some of the bigger omnis, the ones that are 1,600 pages.
Yeah.
And they'll rip them in two and make 2 deluxe editions out of them just because it's hard to read.
I need to breathe into a bag for a minute.
Well, yeah.
Hey, what? Sorry. No, I couldn't do that.
It's tough. Well, especially now, it's 10 years ago, starting the hardcover comic and getting into these hardcovers, the idea that at some point these could become valuable collector's items that go up in value. I mean, I've purchased books for $60 on Amazon and then one day sold them for hundreds.
Yeah,
just because they were. I mean, I don't like being a speculator or living that way, but sometimes you just, you're desperate for money, and it just works out that way.
You can't turn down a few $100, right? I mean,
no, no, and it's kind of great. I also, it's easier to justify with the significant other. You just say, hey, this book's actually worth $500 now, so I wouldn't look away from that too quickly.
I blatantly never used that one.
Yeah. So I mean, it's cool to see how it's changed in that way too. It's been crazy. 10 years. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm still reeling from that fact, but yeah.
You managed to put off thinking about it until today, so I'm really sorry about ruining that for you.
No worries. It's all good.
Speaking of how those books look, though, can we take a little look at a book that you consider to be a really fine-looking book?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is one that is actually not from the big two. It's actually from a European publisher. I'll try and fit it all on the screen at the same time. So I'm holding up, I forget what this edition's called. It's called, there it is, the Meta Barons, the definitive edition. So if anyone's unaware of what the Meta Barons is, there's a gentleman named Alejandro Jodorowsky who is a very well-known sci-fi writer, but in the comic book world, he was most well-known for the Inkle, which created a whole universe of other stories, and the Meta Barons was one of them. It focuses on this line of people called the Meta Baron, who is essentially the greatest fighter in this sci-fi universe. And what you learn very quickly going through, I think there's like 12 generations of Meta Barons in this book, is the only way to become the Meta Baron as the son of a Meta Baron is to kill the Meta Baron. So it becomes a very epic, dramatic line of children killing their fathers. So they're relatively like clean and straightforward designs, but they're so big. Nice, they're just gigantic.
How does that compare to like is that the same as like is it bigger than an Absolute? That book?
It's a bit wider this way.
Right.
Just that European magazine kind of the dimensions, the aspect ratio, I guess. Let me see if I can find a 2-page spread here, just for those watching. But yeah, it's honestly such a beautiful book, and if I'm not mistaken, this was one of those books that I picked up in a frenzy because it was limited to 1,500 copies in the world. They're all numbered, so I got 696. A little 69 in there, but yeah, it's fantastic. I guess I can't find a 2-page spread, but I'll try and. I think I did a whole video on this, but
you did.
It's just beautiful. But Jorge Jimenez is the artist, and he is he's a force to be reckoned with. So there's 2 of these books in this slipcase. It's really nice.
So it's a 2-volume set collected, basically.
That's right. Yeah, in the slipcase.
Right. That is a fine looking book. Funnily enough, I did see it, but I don't know much about the Meta Barons, and I think that was probably a month when I had a lot of other stuff coming out.
Sure, yeah.
And to me, it was just a bit of a gamble, but I've heard really good things.
Yeah,
but I don't know anything about it.
I love that story very much. And Humanoids, they publish a lot of European stories, and they're known to do new editions of things. The Inkle in particular has had like 7 editions. And they seem to be nicer every time.
Really?
Sorry, I'll pull out mine.
Is that the same size? Because they all seem to be slightly different. Is that different in terms of size and dimensions?
Let's see.
They're about the same. Yeah. So this one it's in the wrap still, and the reason for that is I ordered a copy off of Amazon. It came damaged and beaten, and this is also like a limited 1,500 copy printing set. Yeah.
So it came completely dinged up, and I just told them, like, guys, this is unacceptable. They sent me a replacement, so I read the first copy that I had gotten and already opened, returned it, and now this one is still in the wrap. But this isn't a book I plan on selling. I love the Inkle. I love Metabaron. I'm gonna keep these books because I love the stories very much, and I've reread them. Well, not the Inkle, but I've reread Metabaron multiple times because it's just so epic. And great. If you enjoyed Dune, you'd probably like anything by Jodorowsky.
Okay.
I think he wrote Dune. No,
did he?
No, he didn't.
I don't know.
I think he tried to make an adaptation of it. Yeah, I think it was him who did it. So very, very well known in the sci-fi world. I'm proud. Anyone who knows sci-fi who's listening to this has probably commented already and given the actual info, because I'm not as informed as I should be, for sure.
You know more than me, man. Like I know so little about that stuff, and I've eyeballed it so many times, but I'm thinking, is that part of a bigger thing? And I'm so obsessed with reading things in order, or in an order that at least doesn't spoil another story.
Right.
That I ended up just not reading it at all, which is kind of ridiculous, really. That's not how it should work.
yeah. It's I know that feeling though, because me personally too, when if I'm wanting to read something, it's so tough for me. I really admire people who keep up with series on a month-to-month basis.
Yeah,
I really admire them. The fact that you're waiting half a year for an arc to finish, kudos to you. Month to month, the fact that you remember what happened in the previous issue, I'm amazed. Yeah.
Did you never do single issues then?
I did, and I would frequently just wind up binging them. I'd wait until I had 6 or 12, and then I'd just do a nice strong binge. And then if I hated it, I would have spent $50 on 12 issues that I didn't like. So
that is the thing, isn't it? Because I stopped reading singles around about 2010, I think, after Siege, the Marvel event. But yeah, I don't know. It just seemed a bit nuts. It gets to a point as well where you can't move house because you've got.
Right.
I think I had 50 something long boxes, and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So you can't live like that. And half of it's adverts, and you're going like, if I just sold these and got a nice book collection, and now it's probably worse.
Yeah. Well, that's where custom binding comes in.
That's where custom binding.
There are. So, well, I mean, we'll get to this eventually. So we can. Yeah. But yeah, it's I never got that intense with it. If I was doing single issue collecting, it'd be, I don't know, 8 series a month at most something. Yeah, no, not much, because in Canada in particular. There's so whatever the US price is of a comic, add $1 onto that.
Yeah.
And then add another $1 on for tax.
Oh.
And so a $3.99 issue winds up costing you $6, $7. It's crazy. Those oversized issues too, where it's like $9.99 or something, you're paying like $20. It's crazy. I may as well buy a trade paperback. Why am I paying $20 for a single issue?
You'll get that same issue in a trade paperback with other issues for probably either the same or less.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I'm kind of surprised. I really did believe that single issues would go away and potentially become an all-digital thing, and then trade paperbacks would be the baseline physical format, but it's holding on.
It may still happen one day. I think that was partly why what Robert Kirkman was testing when he released Firepower. I think he probably thought, let's see what happens, but there seems to still be a market for both. I think it's a confusing marketplace, though, if you're new. That's probably one of the things that is confusing, because you've, apart from having single issues in digital and print, you then got paperback collections in digital and print, and then the hardcover of those books again.
Right.
And I can see why people would go, I've bought this, and this is book 2, right? Does this go together? No, that's volume 3 of... it's volume 2 of series 3.
Yeah. No, that's the new 52 Justice League. You want Rebirth Justice League Volume 2? And like, what?
I'm leaving now.
Yeah. Why are they both Volume 1 though? This doesn't really make sense. You're like, no, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It's a weird thing. So, but there are ways, and that's the thing. That's what hardcover comic is there to help with, I guess, isn't it? Right? So you can recommend the right stuff to pick up.
I mean, we've gotten as crazy as Matt making videos about the best tablet to use for digital reading.
From
the hardcover comic. It just because things change, right? We can't rebrand now. The hardcover comic has a great acronym, THC. It's perfect. It works out so well for the atmosphere of our channel in general, just having that sort of joke with the weed acronym as well. Yeah, I don't know. Things change. Sometimes you need to read digitally. You're not always going to have a hardcover with you. So, yeah.
I think people can do a bit of a mix now. I mean, I know that you've got the apps with like because the DC
unlimited
app is available
apps
here now, finally.
Yeah.
But it's still, I don't know. I think Marvel's is most of the world at this point, but DC still seems to be slowly creeping out. But there's so much stuff on there.
I don't know if the DC one's out in Canada yet, but
Was
maybe I got to give it a shot. Every time I've tried, I get denied.
Oh.
But you've got those apps as well where you can read. I mean, I don't even know how they have like tens of thousands of comics for free, right? Well, not for free, for the monthly subscription.
It's worth the money what you get. Yeah. I've burned through so much stuff, and it's stuff that they're not collecting. There's some stuff I'm still confused as to why they haven't collected it yet. But it's available on there,
right?
So,
yeah,
and it's growing all the time. So I think that's probably the app I use the most at the minute, just because it's not easy to get hold of that stuff any other way,
right?
Unless you go back to buying single issues and getting scalped.
Yeah, and with DC too, I don't know if you've gone down this path, but there were so many series they started releasing trade paperbacks for older series like Supergirl by Peter David, Aquaman by Peter David, and then just stopped. They just said, no, we're not doing it anymore.
It sets a precedent. It sets a really bad precedent. There are people I know that even with Starman, the compendiums, where people are going, I don't know if I'll get it though, because number 2 might never come out. Like, that's what happens when you don't finish a set. And I wasn't sure they were going to release it because people were pre-ordering.
They did do it too, though, right?
They did.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful set. I'm really glad I've got that set. I love that series.
Yeah, I still need to check out the whole series. I haven't read all of it, admittedly. I hope if those are still in print, I may need to dive in and get them.
I'd recommend it.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. And it really pays off. It's one of those series as well that as you go through, when it hits that, got about halfway through volume 2, I think it is, where you're going, oh, you've brought everything together. It's just, it hits you. Like, it's a very emotional series,
right? That's what I've heard. Yeah. I think that's why I'll like it. That's usually something that draws me to a comic. That's why I love Jeff Lemire so much, because I just know if I read a Jeff Lemire story, it's gonna hit me one way or another. That's good to know that. And then I think Sandman Mystery Theater also had like a compendium volume 1.
It's on its way. Yeah.
I hope there's a 2. If they solicit a 2, I will pick up 1 and pre-order 2, because that is a series.
That's it.
That's a series I'd love to have entirely.
I've never read it.
Me neither. I tried. They released like thicker trade paperbacks. They did 2 volumes and then stopped.
I was sat on them waiting to finish it before I started, and then went, great, nothing, and just gave them away because you can't even sell them then because everyone's going, it's not finished.
Yeah.
It's like,
and they did that with trade paperbacks is like a little more forgivable because they're not crazy expensive. Compendiums suck. That would suck because you're still dropping at least, in Canada, $50, $60. But they did a deluxe edition for a series called The Unwritten. They released one deluxe and stopped. Deluxe edition, guys. I
bought it for my wife because there was a Fables element to it, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, she loves Fables, and I bought it for her. And there you go. And then, is there any more of that? I don't know. Presumably, I know that the series carries on, obviously, but like,
of course, yeah.
I couldn't help her. So it's frustrating, but they did it as well. Sorry, bitching about DC not releasing stuff. It's a fair point. But the one that got me was the Justice League International collection, because they did the 2 omnibus editions. They should have been a 3rd volume. I think it's the breakdown storyline that basically would pretty much. I don't know enough about it because that's why I wanted to read it in omnibus format, and that 3rd volume never came out.
Maybe one day, who knows?
Maybe one day,
who knows what's happening over there?
It's a gamble, which brings us to the next question, or the next topic, which is what was for you a gamble that paid off?
A gamble that paid off. So I may have an unorthodox answer to this. Matt one day reached out to me and said, there's a guy I met on Facebook who is trying to build a completely custom pinball machine. And he's got 4 or 5 decades worth of Spider-Man comics, either custom bound or in single issues. And he's got about 3 to 4 decades worth of Hulk. Same kind of deal, custom bound, single issues. He's selling the binds for $25 each, and then the single issues for like a quarter each. And so I said, okay, I'll go for the Hulk stuff. So I wound up going for the Hulk stuff. It was a few $100s, but it wound up being a real deal. I now in my collection have Hulk from issue 292 of the Incredible Hulk.
Right.
All the way up until, and I'm still working on it, I have everything up until the Mark Waid Indestructible Hulk stuff. A lot of this, some of the Jeff Loeb run is still at Matt's place, so I need him to ship that over to me so I can bind it. But literally decades and decades of Hulk, single issues, like the cover where you see Wolverine's claws sticking out and Hulk's reflection on them.
Yes.
Like they ripped that issue up and put it in a custom hardcover. Hundreds of dollars worth of issues in some of these hardcovers.
Can you give me a minute?
Crazy. All the McFarlane stuff, all the Peter David stuff, all the single issues cut up custom bound.
So did you read it though from like essentially start to finish, or are you still kind of working your way through?
So I'm on the John Byrne stuff now, which I recently had bound. I don't even know where that's at. That's after Peter David's
314. The second John Byrne run.
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
When they started renumbering it, then I think they threw a new number 1 on it.
They did.
But you get all the nice brown pages. I'm showing one of these Incredible Hulk binds.
Man, I had those. I had those issues. Yeah.
It's incredible, and it's been the thing that's paid off the most about it. Not only was it an amazing deal, the gentleman got to build the pinball machine he wanted, which is fantastic too, or arcade machine. I forget which one it was. But I was going before reading any of this stuff. I didn't know all that much about Hulk. I had a general idea about Hulk. I knew he had many phases throughout the character's existence, but reading this and seeing truly how much character progression there was within the Hulk, how much thought there was put into the character, the exploration of mental illnesses like bipolar, multiple personality disorder. There's an issue in Peter David's run that focuses on the AIDS epidemic back in the day that I was at an airport tearing up trying to, trying to make sure no one looked at me because I'm sitting here reading a Hulk comic and I'm getting emotional being in the shoes of the characters within that story who were dying or knowing that they had AIDS. It was crazy. It's the Hulk. I shouldn't,
That Hulk run is shocking. It's weird because I think when sorry, just going to turn this light on. When
sure.
Oh, it's better. Sorry, it was getting a bit dark. When I was a kid, so I guess it was 1991 where those Infinity Gauntlet issues happened.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I guess I was, 15, show my age. I remember reading that story where, the little tiny Hulk is on his shoulder.
Right.
And he thinks he's the voice of God. And that end line, the last line in that story, it's not even like necessarily a reveal, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't read it, because there are still so many people that haven't read it, and don't know just how genuinely incredible it is. That just got me, and I remember reading that, going, I didn't know comics could do this.
Yeah,
because especially around like the early 90s, not to massively generalize and dismiss the 90s, there's a lot of good stuff in the 90s. I genuinely think so. But there is a lot of tat. At the same time, same as probably any decade, but there was so much stuff coming out in the 90s. But it threw me, and I think that was one of those moments where I kind of realized what I wanted from comics and from stories as a whole. Was that very emotionally driven, very smart storytelling.
Yeah.
And that was when you look at that back at the time, back in the day, like the issues before it, it's a lot of just a big green beast man in his undies smashing things up, and then you've suddenly got these very emotionally driven stories, psychological stories, the darkness of his origins.
Right.
Where did that come from? Well, it technically came from Barry Windsor Smith, some of it, but that's a whole other story, isn't it?
That's that was definitely there's a lot of motivation there.
Yeah.
No, I agree. It's been kind of astonishing to I guess get to experience, and I'm kind of worried that it won't keep going. I've read some of the stuff further down the line. Bruce Jones, I really enjoyed what he did with the Hulk.
Yes.
A lot of Bruce Banner on the Run.
It doesn't get enough credit, I think.
Yeah,
run.
I really like that run. I mean, Jason Aaron will be a Jason Aaron run, I'm sure. A lot of action, a lot of good moments, I'm sure, a lot of good lines. And we'll see. I've read a good portion of Immortal Hulk, but I've heard that it is probably maybe even the best Hulk run of all time, is what some people have told me. So we'll see.
It's blasphemy. Yeah. Peter Davis.
Yeah. It must be so hard for a Hulk writer to get on Hulk now after what Peter David did.
I think that's why it's so hard for anyone to almost get on any book, but especially with what Peter David did, because it was 10 years that run.
Yeah, right.
He could have had a YouTube channel in that time.
Yeah, and you've got that same kind of deal with Claremont and X-Men.
Yeah.
Although there have been, I really enjoyed Hickman's run on X-Men. Although I'm not a huge X-Men fan, so my opinion is what it is. I didn't like Bendis's run, so hopefully that makes the X-Men fans out there happy. I'm not a huge fan of the Claremont run. I've tried so many times.
Oh, it's
just I don't know. I just can't. I can't get into the. I don't mind text. I don't mind a lot of exposition, but
there's a lot.
Wow, there's a lot.
I need to know every issue. Know about the focused totality of Psylocke's psychic knife. Oh, they didn't mention it. Oh, there it is. There are some weird, like the Claremontisms, as people call them. And it's funny when you read back, because I read a lot of those as a kid, and like quite young kid, and you read some of it now and you're going, like, it's lucky my parents didn't get hold of some of this stuff. Like, it's very some of it's very sexual, and some of it's kind of adult themed, but it's really verbose. And then you read New Mutants, and they're supposed to be kids, and they're talking like 40-year-old writers.
Yeah. But hey, I'm sure there are really great stories in there, and a lot that I'm missing out on.
Yeah.
One day, maybe. It's one of those runs where I think I'd probably enjoy it most physically. Yeah. Seeing the whole page right away, as opposed to just on Comixology and literally getting a full screen of text. Because nothing against panel-to-panel guide view, but there's just a lot of text. If you're looking at a single panel in Claremont's run, you're probably looking at mostly text.
Has anyone got a magnifying glass for the little Wolverine? It is a lot of text. It is good. There are some key bits. It might be worth even just dipping into the sporadic stories and then going, now I want to find out where that bit happened. Because I mean, that's almost how you had to do X-Men. I think X-Men was one of those, especially for Marvel, one of the first books that really spread the way it did. Obviously Spider-Man had 3 titles when I started, and then it was how many? I mean, X-Men by the 90s had 8 to 11 titles a month. If you count minis and stuff.
More than now? Probably.
I don't know what it is now. I mean, admittedly, when I stopped reading Marvel after the modern Secret Wars, I picked up some of the Hickman stuff. I didn't really get on with it. Gotcha. I thought, I'll keep with it. And then they went, now we're going to release all these titles. And I'm like, you know what, I'm out. But during the 90s, it was fine.
Yeah, right. That was the time then,
Yeah, that was.
Now it's a bit exhausting. It is a bit because there are those options where you could go to Image and just say, okay, I just have to pick up whatever. I'm even out of touch with Image now, but let's say Invincible for the sake of saying an Image title. I just need to pick up Invincible, and there's Tech Jacket and there's Astounding Wolfman, but I don't need to read those. No. I can ignore those fully, which is a nice. It's nice. It's the same. It's the same reason that probably manga does well,
Yeah.
even in the West, is because it's just that story.
Yeah.
You know, you want to read One Piece? Yes, there are 1,000 chapters to read. Yes, but it's just One Piece, and that's it.
And it's just follow the numbers. You're all good.
Yeah. As high as you can count, you just keep going.
Probably beyond that, by the sound of it. So, I mean, in terms of that being a favorite purchase, that's a pretty nice. I mean, sorry, that was a gamble.
An amazing gamble.
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
That is a gamble that really paid off, because that is. I can't stop saying incredible run.
It is.
Of Incredible Hulk. But so can you give us now your favorite? It could be your absolute favorite purchase or a favorite purchase.
Yeah. So this is a tough one for me, because I love so many books. I could say Animal Man by Grant Morrison, because it's so near and dear to my heart, but I'll say something different just because I like to say different things, and I'm riding this wave right now. So I picked up actually on the top a manga box set for Demon Slayer,
right?
Which is, at least as far as I'm aware, a very popular anime right now. I think there's a movie coming out soon, or a new season. But either way, I have a lot of friends close to home that really love the series, kept telling me to watch it, kept telling me to check it out. And my apprehension with manga or anime is always most people call it, I guess, fan service.
Right.
I don't need to see, cartoon breasts or cartoon butts. I don't need to, that sort of stuff. Or the very annoying characters where they just kind of, you're looking through pages or spending minutes watching a show where it's just people screaming at each other over nonsense just to be silly and like outrageous. But Demon Slayer it doesn't have any of that. It hasn't, as much as I tried to look for it. I recently finished it. As much as I tried to look for an awkward or like a corny anime manga moment, I couldn't find one. And I hated it for it, but I also loved it for that, because it was so well done. Literally, there are 23 volumes in the series, and every single volume, I would again find myself getting emotional. Find myself the way they would make you relate to the villains, the way the main character is this pure-hearted, amazing individual who can look past so many things, who's learned so much in his life, and through his struggle to save his sister has changed as a character entirely, and his mindset is so pure and innocent and just so focused and driven and dedicated. There are so many things about him as a character that you look at, and it's motivational. It's a fake character for sure, but you think, if I can even take a piece of that with me once I'm done this story, it'll probably make me a better person, in sort of a generalized morality way, I guess.
Yeah.
If you believe in I guess morals, things like that. I don't know who's watching these videos, but
not our audience. I'm kidding.
Helping other people, paying respect to history, while also not letting it hold you back from changing the world and making the world a better place.
Yeah.
So a lot of things like that. And again, the fact that it didn't make me feel like this is corny, I hate that they did this, was impressive to me. Yeah.
That sounds cool. Because that's the thing. I think I remember, what was it? Kevin Smith? I think he said he actually learned he got more of a sense of morality from comics than he did from his religious upbringing. Mm-hmm. And I had quite a religious upbringing, and feel much the same way. I'm not like knocking religion or anything at this point. Each to their own, whatever works for you. But I found comics to be quite an interesting guide, and you get those perspectives on people's lives, and you learn about characters, even if it's in quite odd or extreme circumstances. It's all representative of something in reality. Otherwise, we can't relate. But that's interesting, because I don't know. Again, that sweeping generalization about manga in my mind, from my limited experience, is that it's all people shouting "Cute" at someone else, and then there's lots of lights behind them as they fly across in that position, and then hit them, and that's kind of the story. But that sounds intriguing, because I saw the box set as well on your. I think you did a video, didn't you, on it
recently? Yeah.
I need to watch the full video because I haven't had a chance. But it looks Have you got? Is it really heavy? Are you able to show?
No, it's not too heavy. I can bring it over. Yeah.
Yeah.
If folks will pardon the silence for
I'll fill it. Don't you worry.
Seconds, yeah.
I can fill silence too easily. So Mike's just basically going to. Oh, I can see it behind him. So he's going to grab the box set now just to have a look at. It's not as huge as I thought it was. I forget how small manga can be sometimes. So,
yeah. So that's the full box set there.
I remember seeing it on Amazon, I think.
Yeah. It's had some really good discounts recently, like 40-50% off at times. And then I don't know if it'll fully.
Oh, wow.
But it's got the 23 volumes in there. You
can get a feel for that.
It's really nice. And then, even looking at each one, it's got, they each have their own little cover and stuff. It's really cool. It's really cool. And the story itself is, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Did you get into manga before you got into American comics, or the other way around? So,
growing up, I was born in the 90s, which meant growing up with Dragon Ball Z.
Right.
So that was the start, and then things like Naruto came out, Bleach, Yu-Gi-Oh, Beyblade, Pokemon, they all had like their own kind of anime shows. We started getting magazines. It's funny. One of my best friends, I've known him since I was 13. Yeah. So the vast majority of my life. We actually met because we both collected Shonen Jump, which was the magazine that collected.
I didn't think it was available outside of. I don't know why I thought that, but
yeah,
I didn't.
I mean, maybe Canada was unique in that way. I don't know if it was available in the States, but we each had some. We brought them to school one day and just became friends that way, and now we're been friends ever since. Sorry, banging my mic around here.
Don't worry. It's all good. Did you have to hide them from teachers? Because surely some of that content was not appropriate for school, right?
Yeah, I don't remember. maybe. I don't know. It was, yeah. We hid many things from our teachers. At one point, growing up, this was the time when Nintendo DS came out. Uh-huh. And on the Nintendo DS, there was a Bomberman game that would let you play LAN, like local area network. I totally
missed that.
Yeah, and from what I remember, only one person had to own the game, and you could invite other DSs in the area to play with you. So we would be in class, sitting at our desks. Our desks had little holes in them, with our DSs hidden in those holes, just playing against each other.
No,
it was great.
Oh my god! Hey, look. I've still got mine.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. It's right here. Also have incidentally a Super Nintendo in the drawer in like my living room that needs a cable to be able to watch it on a massive screen that's probably going to make me want to vomit with all the pixels that are flying around. But I didn't know that Bomberman was on the DS. Completely missed it.
It was a great time.
I love that game.
Yeah. Playing with other people too. Oh, it was fantastic. Everyone has their own screen. It was great.
It's perfect for it.
Yeah. I did okay in school, so it didn't have the biggest impact.
The
not recommending
stuff
it to
didn't
kids.
melt your brain either.
No, that didn't either. Comics didn't either. All
the stuff they warn you about. No one was burning them in the street.
No.
Stop reading this shit. It's gonna pervert your mind.
Yeah. I don't know why I fell off of comics. I guess it just wasn't something I could purchase myself growing up. It's tough to justify it to the parents. And then one day my friend, this was in high school, that same friend who I met reading Shonen Jump, he told me, you really need to check out The Dark Knight Returns, and you really need to check out Green Lantern, The Sinestro Corps War, and then Blackest Night, and then Brightest Day. And he handed me a USB with all that stuff on it. Dark Knight Returns, fell in love with it immediately. And then I just remember reading Green Lantern. I had no idea. I hadn't really kept up with Green Lantern. And just jumping into Sinestro Corps War, not recommended for anyone. But it was that exploration that, who are all these characters?
That storyline.
How did it get
insane. Here? I can't believe that, where they did it as an absolute as well. I was looking at it.
That's right.
You need to do the other stuff before, because
yeah,
I want the set, because it doesn't make any real sense. But because there's so many reveals as well, and again, there's all the payoffs. that hit by the time Sinestro Corps War comes out.
Oh yeah.
Just to read that on its own, or almost release it as a recommendation, it's a bit weird.
But it worked. It madly got me back into comics.
That's brilliant.
So it worked out. I guess I had that thing in my brain that made me say, well, I want to find out how we got to this point too, because something led here. It didn't magically start a war. So that was part of the fun.
Yeah, that is a big part of the fun. It's funny that it's nice that actually when you think about now how people can do that probably slightly more easily by buying trades or going digital.
Yes.
But, I mean, I remember as a kid, they didn't, for me, I keep saying as a kid when I was a boy, and all these were fields, they used to basically, there'd be like 5 trades for a whole decade.
Yeah.
There was Dark Phoenix Saga, the Project Pegasus thing story,
right,
and about Born Again and a few others for Marvel, and you go like, that was it. You'd have so many gaps to fill, but then you were finding all the single issues, which is half the fun. Back
when that was possible. Now, I don't know. I'm glad. I guess there's some way to make money off. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of speculators all that much.
No.
I mean, even personally, this is probably a few years ago, and I was still getting single issues. But there would be so many times I would miss out on a book that wasn't necessarily on my pull list, but part of a crossover or something. And it just so happens this crossover issue is the first appearance of somebody's fart or shadow or toenail. And so everyone had to buy that issue because it's the first appearance of, it's the sword handle of some new character. And that's why they need to check it out and they need to buy it so they can sell it on eBay 2 weeks from now. And it's $15 instead of $7. I mean,
that happened. So, do you remember that they caught them out with the, it was the Agatha Harkness stuff on WandaVision, and they kept implying it was going to be Mephisto.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
The money shot up on those Mephisto appearances. Like, actually, it's not.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. No, not. It's just unfortunate, I guess, when people miss out on something as a result of that. Someone who's just genuinely wanting to get the story right.
Yeah, that's
not just trying to flip a book, but.
There is,
like we've said, there are so many options. It's really awesome. It's really amazing.
Yeah, it's great to be able to just get things in people's hands. That was one of the things that was interesting about the obviously the pandemic was a horrific period of time, but it was interesting to see how things switched, and all of a sudden they were putting books and digital comics in people's hands.
Yeah,
for something to do. It's like, this stuff is really good. Like, I know, I've been telling you this for 30 years.
Yeah. I really hope, because Marvel, I'm sure, has gotten a lot of an audience growth thanks to the movies, the shows, the cinematic universe. I really hope this next round for DC is the money shot and they pull that readership, that audience in.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
It's funny because I'm not that bothered about the Marvel films at this point, and I didn't think I was bothered about any adaptation even at this point.
Right.
But the when they listed the stuff they were going to cover, especially when Authority was in there, and my jaw just dropped. I'm kind of like,
yeah.
It's like I'm 8 again. Brilliant.
Right. Yeah.
That was cool. I'm so excited for it, and I didn't think I'd have that feeling back. So even that in itself has been really cool.
I agree. And James Gunn has done great stuff with Guardians of the Galaxy. If he brings it, he seems to be bringing that energy at the Authority. I mean, I never would have thought.
No, it's such a shocker, but desperate to see what he does with it. The Suicide Squad I thought was really good fun.
I agree. Yeah, I'm very excited for it. I mean, as much as I'd love for them to just do a nice, very high budget CGI version of Warren Ellis's run, I understand they won't, and I'm still looking forward to whatever they make.
Maybe. We just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is with the Authority too is pretty much any one of those plot lines will most likely tick off some sort of foreign country in our world in this day and age. Because
yeah. But then hey, they made The Boys.
That's true.
They altered it heavily, but they made The Boys.
That's true. Yeah. I'm pretty sure the first arc of like Warren Ellis's Authority run is like a tyrannical Chinese dictator sending suicidal superhumans to London, New York, and
I reckon I think you're right. They'll cut that bit. We'll leave that bit
big
out.
audience. There's a big audience over on the east side of the cinematic market. So
yeah, that's true. That is true. It'd probably be more the Frank Quitely, Mark Miller stuff that makes it through. I think people flying through people's heads.
The redneck mutant.
Yeah, that's offending no one, right?
Right. Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm
Hopefully,
so
it'll be good. Even if it's not amazing, I still get the feeling it's going to be entertaining.
Right. Yeah, we'll get the fifth. Is it the fifth or sixth attempt at a Swamp Thing adaptation?
Yeah, I don't even. I did see the original film.
I really
it's a shocker.
I really hope it would be cool though if just for shits and giggles in the new Flash movie, while he's running through whatever it is, the Speed Force that he's running into all these Batmen, that they just show for a second all the Swamp Things over the years just sort of standing together, just for a split second. It'd be fun.
Maybe they will. Maybe your dream will come true.
And all the King Kongs. All the Godzillas.
What else do they own? They should sneak it all in. Just make it part of one massive universe. Why not?
Well, I'm kind of curious. I mean, maybe we'll see that with Marvel one day. They've got, Predator, Alien?
Yeah.
There's another one now that I saw they were starting a comic series for. Either way, I can't imagine
Warhammer?
Over, but Warhammer was one too, yeah.
It's a bit of a surprise.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to see more Warhammer.
I haven't tried it yet, but
I feel like that's a really good IP for comics, I would think, anyway.
Yeah, it really appeals to me, and I've never even played the games. It just looks cool.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah. So we're going to head to your last choice, and it is your highest recommendation.
My highest recommendation. So again, slightly unorthodox answer. I could give a comic book answer if I have to, but I'm going to say custom binding.
Ah, interesting.
That's my highest recommendation. Now I know it's challenging depending where you're located in the world, just depending what kind of binders are around you. But I feel like for me, custom binding has really freed up my options as a collector. I can go on eBay and get fortunate one day and find a lot of issues 1 through 60 of Batman Eternal, for example. Not that this had 1 through 52 of Batman Eternal for $25. And you're like, sweet, $25 for the whole set. I pay another $50 to bind them, and then $75. I've gotten the whole series in 2 hardcovers.
Does it really work that way? Can you actually get that run for less than you can get the Omni?
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten lots for dirt cheap at times.
Really?
Dirt cheap. Oh, big time. Yeah. And the cool thing is oftentimes you'll find lots for series that aren't officially collected yet.
Yeah.
It might be a fringe series, like I think Justice League Generation Lost. I picked up all 32 or so issues for $12 or something.
Jeez.
I mean, bound it for $25, and $37 later, I have a custom omnibus for the spiritual successor of Justice League International, right? So
yeah,
you never know, right? It's not officially released. There haven't been any nice trade paperbacks for it. And then on the other side, you could pick up the Starman Compendium and just bind it. Now you've got your own Starman omnibus. You can split it up if you want to. I've done things where I really like Simon Spurrier. As a writer, he's fantastic. If you haven't checked out anything by him, I highly recommend it. He's done a lot for Marvel and a ton of Image and Boom stuff, especially.
That's right.
But I'll just take 3 or 4 of his miniseries, slap them in a hardcover, and I've got an anthology that I can show him. And the cool thing is, too, another bonus is if you go to cons or if you have a chance to ever meet a creator, the way their eyes light up when they see a custom bind.
Really?
I mean, Garth Ennis, Matt and I went to see Garth Ennis last year at a Comic-Con, and I think he handed him one of his Hitman custom binds, and Ennis was all he was all over it. He was super excited. We one year ran into Brian Azzarello. You familiar with Brian Azzarello?
Yes, 100 bullets.
We ran into him, and I had given Matt the new 52 Wonder Woman. I had custom bound it. And he handed it to Brian, and Brian Azzarello looked so irritated, looked like he hated the whole day. And he sees this book, and he's like, "What the hell is this?" And he looks at it, he's like, "Oh, wow." He's like, "You guys, you did this?" And we're like, "Yeah, it's a custom bind. There's a table of contents, everything. He's like, holy shit. He looked so happy. He chatted with us. He was smiling. He was excited. It's great. It's always a surprise too if you get a chance to run into a creator. I've had guys like, especially like someone like Matt Kint, he'll sketch in your book and like free, like he'll just sketch it. He'll sign it and do like a quick sketch. It's awesome. So yeah, for things like that, it's really great. Yeah.
That is a really interesting choice. I do like a left field answer.
Yeah. It's just, and you mentioned having a lot of people have just a ton of long boxes, short boxes. It takes some money and some effort, but if you're just going to have those books sitting there in short boxes, long boxes, granted, I've personally sold many custom binds. I've sold them for upwards of a couple $100, depending what's in them. I do feel bad about it sometimes. Like Jason Aaron's Thor, God of Thunder run, I sold a custom bind for it before the omnibus was even solicited. It was like $150 I sold it for. And like a year or two later, the omnibus got solicited, and that person spent what they spent on the bind, but you just never know. What I'm saying is, it's if you're worried about losing your money, I get it. Custom binding something doesn't necessarily mean you're losing money.
No, it's not necessarily a loss. The thing that confuses me about it is because some of them look like kind of regular, oversized cover size. Right. But they're made from. Sometimes they're made from trade. Sometimes they're made from comics. So surely they're smaller, almost like the Dark Horse omnibus size, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you're limited to whatever. So. Actually, let's see here. So I have the Hulk book and even that Attack on Titan book. Tangled up in wires here. I guess these are kind of the same size almost. Attack on Titan's a bit bigger, but it's basically whatever your page size is. There are custom omnibuses out there that are oversized.
Yeah,
the pages are the size of an omnibus page. Those are someone, and I'm not judging this in any way. That's someone printing pages, printing the comic at that absolute omnibus size, and then binding it.
Right.
Those are typically super expensive. I don't have any of those personally. I don't know what the legal ramifications are for those books.
Probably not overly.
Yeah. Depending what country you're in, there has been, so something like Image Comics, for example, they're DRM free. I forget what it stands for, but DRM free essentially means you can use the digital copy that you own. I should probably look this up before I say anything I shouldn't. But this was years ago that I looked into this. And please, if you're listening to this, Google it first. Mike from the Hardcover Comic isn't saying this is a fact.
Mike from the Hardcover Comic fully endorses the printing of illegal material.
But apparently, if you're not planning to sell it, if you're trying to print out, let's say you purchased on Comixology, you can purchase something like Saga from Image Comics, and they'll give you you can download it because you can get a downloaded DRM free copy. Okay. And the idea is if you're printing that for yourself, just to have it in your own collection. It's kind of like if you're making, it's kind of like if you're making your own moonshine. Like if no one finds out about it, if no one dies from it, then you're probably not going to get in trouble, right? Like,
do people die from custom binding? Is this a dark side to this hobby?
Too many paper cuts.
That'd be a fair amount of paper cuts. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So those I don't delve in too much. My thing is I either buy trade paperback, single issues. Get rid of ads if it's single issues, so I do get an X-Acto knife, slice them up. If it's a trade paperback, I get a hair dryer, rip the front cover off. Not rip it off, unglue it off. Yeah. But yeah, it's fun.
It just seems so weird because I'm so obviously programmed to go like, that's the product, and then it's finished and it goes on the shelf, and then I'll look at it and go, why don't the numbers line up?
Yeah.
You just reopen the design file and change the number.
I know.
Which I keep going into, but it does drive me nuts. But then at the same time, I can't imagine ripping the insides out and going, I'm going to fix this because it needs it.
It is kind of crazy. And sometimes too, when you're doing it and you rip a little too hard or something, and you actually rip the page you that's not the advertisement page. Oh, and you're just crestfallen a little bit. Do I buy a whole new trade paperback for this one corner?
Yes.
Sometimes. Sometimes. Or an issue, or just an issue. If you can find the issue in the wild. Yeah.
Weirdly, what appeals about the collecting the old issues in one book is, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but it's the smell. That's one of the things I miss about old school comics. It's just there's nothing like it. Going flicking through comics in long boxes in shops, and then opening up the bag for the first time, and you hit that. Yeah. It's not even necessarily a nice smell, but it means happiness.
Yes, it does. It does. No, I agree. Let me see. I haven't smelt these in a while.
Mike is currently sniffing the books for those who. It's perfectly normal.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same as having it being. Well, it's kept airtight in the bag and board.
Yeah, I guess.
Here, it's still. If you get up, you can still get it if you're reading it, probably, and it stays on the fingers. But I mean, it's not that blast that you get. Someone turn the audio off and watch this. Let us know what you think.
Don't worry, I'll edit a special version later on. Cool. Yeah. Well, that was your 5. Thank you for sharing that. That was a really, really interesting final answer as well. I thought that was a nice move because custom binding does intrigue me, but it's one of those things where I don't 100% know how to start. But there are videos, plenty of videos on it on the Hardcover Comic on YouTube. So yeah, if you're listening, you're intrigued by the idea, jump on there. There's plenty of advice, plenty of videos about it, and Michael taught you through. Yeah, hopefully. And it is always tough the first time. I mean, I won't lie about it. It's not the easiest thing. You feel weird doing something most people don't do. Like you mentioned, this is the product they made, and this is the way it was intended to exist. And yet, you're fighting back against it. It's great. It's what, it's everyone denounced comics. You're a rebel if you read comics. You were kind of left to your own corner if you read comics. And that mindset has stayed with me even while I'm in this corner of being a comic book fan. I'm segregating myself even further and being the one who cuts open comics. I was thinking also of taking that soundbite of kind of, don't worry, it's perfectly natural, just relax. It might feel weird, but do you know what? It's gonna. The knife comes down. It'll only hurt the first time. Okay, that's going to be the ad for the episode. What we're going to expect to see here. Yeah, this was so much fun. I had an awesome time. Cool. Well, thanks, Mike. I'm so made up you came on. Appreciate you're busy. Videos take a long time to put together, and you put a hell of a lot of love into them. And into just promoting comics as well, which like anyone that does it with that much affection wins it for me, because I love this stuff. I love this medium. You clearly do as well. So, if people are looking for recommendations, especially stuff as well that isn't the mainstream, there's a good mix. There'll be plenty of stuff that is Marvel and DC, but there'll be plenty of stuff as well that you may not even have heard of. Yeah. So it's a good place to go. Hardcover Comic on YouTube. Do not miss out. Chances are you're probably already following them, but just in case, go follow. Thanks again, Hardcover Mike, for coming into the Omniverse for a little while and sharing your thoughts with us. Yeah, and, absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. Cool. Well, fingers crossed we'll have you back again another time. We'll have to do more crossovers. Absolutely. We should mix and mingle. Yeah, too right. Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Thanks for listening, everyone. Cheers.